A voice recording had been leaked by him, and dozens of things that had not been discussed in the NBA for years had finally come to light. The recording leaked by Jimmy Butler had not only tarnished Curry's name, but also dragged NBA Commissioner Adam Silver into the depths of a dark scandal. What had been done was far more significant than the games played on the court. Before starting the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The NBA world was proud to host the 2026 All-Star Weekend. The chosen city was Charlotte, Stephen Curry's hometown. The media praised Curry's contribution to this achievement, and social media shared posts about true leadership. However, behind the scenes, a tsunami was quietly approaching. That morning, a brief statement was updated on the NBA's official website. The Internal Audit Committee has completed its transparency review of the 2026 All-Star hosting process. This seemed like a fairly routine announcement. That is, until a few hours later, when an 87-page internal audit report was leaked to the media. The report contained allegations so shocking that it sent shockwaves not only through the basketball community, but across the entire country. It alleged that millions of dollars had been transferred through fake consulting firms and shell companies, that sponsorships had been manipulated, and that some of Stephen Curry's personal advisors were involved. Furthermore, it was noted that some of the payments coincided with a process managed by NBA Commissioner Adam Silver's personal office. But the most frightening part was a footnote attached to the report. In the summer of 2023, just a few days before Charlotte was selected, a private dinner was organized between Curry's advisors and Silver. The dinner was closed to the public. The city selection was announced immediately afterwards. The media went crazy. ESPN, NBA All-Star selection overshadowed by bribery allegations? Sports World, how did Curry win his city? NY Hoops, President Silver silent, Butler speaks out. Because yes, the first person to speak was Jimmy Butler. When he stepped in front of the press cameras, he had no script in front of him and no piece of paper in his hand. Just a calm and sharp sentence that came from within. If a player, a city, or a power can manipulate the NBA for personal gain, it's not just basketball. It's a betrayal of all of us. His words did not create a frozen silence. On the contrary, they echoed with outrage. From the moment he made that statement, Butler was no longer just a player, but also the voice of justice. The NBA management immediately issued a press release. Adam Silver stated that the report had been misinterpreted and that it was too early to reach any conclusions. Stephen Curry shared only the following sentence on his social media account: "We won because we deserved it, period." But Jimmy Butler did not stop there. That night, he made the following statement on a television program: "If I don't speak up, who will? If even an all-star organization can't be completely transparent, what are we fighting for on the court?" All-Star scandal immediately became a trending topic around the world. For the first time, cracks were clearly visible in the NBA's shiny window. Meanwhile, independent journalist Lena Torres discovered an Excel spreadsheet buried in the report. $38 million in consulting fees paid over 18 months. Some companies had only an email address. Others had no history at all. One of them, it was registered at the exact same address as Curry's former media consultants company. That night, Jimmy Butler posted a single tweet from his phone: "If we're playing for transparency, turn on the lights. I'm here." The tweet received 200,000 interactions in just 3 hours. As the NBA's silence deepened, public opinion turned to Jimmy. But this was only the beginning for him, because the next morning, an audio recording would surface. And this time, it wouldn't just be documents, but verbal commands and instructions as well. As dawn was breaking, whispers were already spreading through the NBA corridors. There was an audio file. It was a short but shocking recording taken from a meeting with an advisor. The first to share it was an independent podcast host. His show, The Whistle, was normally known for basketball gossip and contract analysis. But this time, they were the first to get their hands on the recording. The recording was only 2 minutes and 20 seconds long. In the background, you could hear the rustling of papers and the clinking of glasses. But there was only one voice echoing in the room. It was clear, direct, and sounded like a confession. "The president has approved it. Silver has given the green light. Charlotte is guaranteed. Start pouring the money, but there will be no written document." The owner of the voice was quickly identified. Andre Lattimore, Curry's special advisor in charge of media and sponsorship strategies. What's more, voice analysis and the date of the recording showed that it was made just 12 days before the NBA management announced its decision on Charlotte. At that moment, all hell broke loose in the press. Because this was no longer an allegation, it was clear and definitive evidence. Jimmy Butler's phone was now ringing off the hook. Agencies, news channels, and player union representatives. But before he stepped in front of the cameras, he did something else. He released the documents. He shared detailed analyses of the 3 companies attached to the internal audit report on his Twitter account. These companies had received a total of $26 million in payments for event management and organizational consulting during the All-Star process. But the truth was this: both had the same address. The third had only been established a month earlier, and what they had in common, all 3 were affiliated with agencies managed by Curry's personal brand consultants. Butler then made a short but sharp press statement. From the moment he broke his silence, it was clear to everyone looking into his eyes that there was no turning back. "We heard the recording and saw the documents. Now there was only one question left. Will the NBA clean up this moldy structure, or will it just cover it up?" Adam Silver remained silent. Stephen Curry's office made its first statement. The statement included the phrases "fake recording," "manipulated content," and "smear campaign," but the voice analysis, metadata, and recording date were all 100% verified. Moreover, an executive close to Silver's office spoke to CNN on condition of anonymity. The meeting did take place. The topics were more or less the same. Andre was there. And yes, Curry's camp was definitely driving the process. For the first time in NBA history, a player had taken up arms against his league's biggest star and top executive with documents. Social media turned into a firestorm. All-Star Gate, Butler was right and Silver silent. But Butler wasn't just tweeting, of course. That night, he also submitted a petition to the NBA Players Association. The demands were clear and concise: the establishment of an independent ethics committee, the release of the entire internal audit report to the public. Stephen Curry, Adam Silver, and Andre Lattimore must make a public statement. Meanwhile, the New York Post published new information. The consulting company named in the report, Forward Vision Sports, LLC, was registered only with a virtual mailbox. The company's founder was a well-known figure who had served as media director at Curry's camp. And just then, Adam Silver finally broke his silence. It wasn't a press conference. He just released a single video. The NBA has conducted the All-Star selection process in an ethical manner. We take the concerns of the public seriously. Our first priority is to reassure our players and fans. But this was not an answer. It was more like an escape route. Jimmy Butler appeared on a television program that day. The host got straight to the point. "Mr. Jimmy, do you think Curry himself could have managed this process?" Jimmy nodded in agreement. "He didn't just manage it, he won it, but he didn't play fair. And we're all part of this game. If we accept this dirty game, we're not just selling our names, we're selling the soul of basketball." That night, more than 200 fans gathered in front of the NBA headquarters. They all held signs that read, "Jimmy is not alone. Basketball wants justice. The recordings don't lie." But everything was just beginning, because the next day, Jimmy Butler's team announced a new name, Malik Rowe, a former NBA executive. He had been involved in the All-Star bidding process, and he was ready to speak. Malik Rowe, a former NBA executive, he had held mid-level positions in the league for years and had never been a public figure. But like a few others whose names appeared in the files, his phones had been ringing off the hook for some time. The offer from Jimmy Butler's office was very clear, not secret, but open, and in front of the cameras, under oath. Rowe accepted the offer. That morning in New York, the media had gathered at the building where the first hearing of the Independent Ethics Committee was being held. Perhaps the most critical investigation in basketball history had begun, and Jimmy Butler was first in line. He didn't even speak. He just watched silently. Malik Rowe took the stand and looked at the notes in his hand, taking a deep breath, and his words came out without any tremor. "My instructions were," he said, "put Charlotte's bid forward. If necessary, weigh down the other cities' files and make them look inadequate." Everyone in the room was stunned. This was a kind of internal sabotage. It didn't take long to figure out where these instructions came from. Jimmy Butler's representative asked directly, "Where is this pressure coming from, Malik?" Rowe looked up. "From Stephen Curry's camp, directly through Andre Lattimore." Then he added, "He called me. He said the President Silver knows about the process. Don't resist. Just follow instructions." They didn't move a muscle, as if there were no cameras flashing, because no one could even move their eyes. The testimony didn't end there. Rowe described a file that Curry's advisors had presented to him at a meeting. The file contained sponsorship lists, logistical incentives, and media guarantees. But these documents were not included in the NBA's official presentation. Rowe said, "When I was given these documents, they said, 'These are special offers for Charlotte. Other cities cannot offer this, because these resources are coming from outside the league.'" Butler bowed his head. The chain was now complete. Those documents matched the payments to the fictitious companies Jimmy had previously disclosed. In other words, these sponsorships were actually just part of a front network. As Rowe's testimony ended, the silence in the room remained. There was only one question left. The committee chairman approached the witness stand and asked, "Mr. Adam Silver, did he give you or your team any direct instructions during this process?" Rowe replied, "Not directly, but I heard him say the following during one of the meetings. The All-Star event in Charlotte moves the league forward. It's the right strategic decision." On paper, this statement seemed neutral, but in context, when combined with what Curry's camp had been saying, it became a directive. By the time the meeting ended, the media had already prepared and published their headlines. Rowe pointed the finger at Curry in his statement. "Finally, someone from within the NBA has spoken. Was Butler right?" But Jimmy remained silent, because there was more to come. A second witness had been called for the next day, a former advisor, one of those who had allegedly fled abroad. However, the real blow came not after Rowe's testimony, but that night, because Jimmy Butler quietly shared a new file on his personal account. With just one sentence, "The money came, the trust went." The file contained payment records from 3 different dates. Each date coincided with key developments in the All-Star process, and the payments were routed through Forward Vision Sports, LLC. On the same day, the New York Times announced the existence of another audio recording. This time, it contained clearer, more direct content, and the sentence in the recording was as follows: "President Silver has given the green light. Curry's city is guaranteed, but be careful. Everything must appear clean on the surface." Audio analysis began. The identity of the speaker had not yet been revealed, but everyone guessed who it was and what they were talking about. Adam Silver made a brief statement the next morning. He said he supported the independence of the investigation. He stated that the allegations against him were baseless and not supported by evidence. But the documents published by Butler were still there. Malik Rowe's statement was on record. The audio recording was in the process of being verified, and the public was no longer silent. On social media, fans began calling for the All-Star event to be canceled. Some players also openly supported Jimmy. CJ McCollum wrote, "We have to play this game fairly." Damian Lillard said, "If Butler hadn't spoken up, we would still be playing this game without knowing the truth." The fight started by Jimmy was now much more than a personal vendetta. And at that point, Jimmy Butler's office asked the question everyone was waiting for. Why hasn't Adam Silver made a statement yet? There was no answer. But something else happened that night. Another new audio recording. And this time, it wasn't so much the voice that would be talked about as the words he said. Later that night, Lena Torres, an independent investigative journalist, reached Butler's team. She had in her possession a raw audio file sent by an anonymous source. It had been recorded during a secret meeting. The voice was slightly muffled, but clear. and the words it contained first passed through the ears, then seemed to pass through the NBA itself and become engraved in its history. The male voice on the recording said, "The president wants this closed before Zurich. Pressure must be put on Silver. Money, lobbying, whatever it takes. We have the green light from above, but don't leave any written trace." The words were clear, threatening, and careful. The voice was that of Robert Eastman, a former senior advisor at Forward Vision Sports, LLC. The recording was verified by analysis. The date pointed to 10 days before the announcement that Charlotte would host the All-Star Game. Jimmy Butler didn't wait this time. He went straight to the screen, his voice calm. He looked straight into the camera and spoke. "This recording is not just about corruption. It is proof of systematic pressure. If one of the most valuable organizations in the NBA is being directed for personal gain, that is not just a mistake. It is abuse. And those responsible cannot remain silent." The press conference lasted only 3 minutes, but its impact lasted for hours. Adam Silver's office released a statement the next day. It said that the authenticity of the recordings had not yet been confirmed, and that the league management took Butler's concerns seriously. But the public was no longer waiting. People no longer wanted to believe, they just wanted to know. Media outlets such as CNN, ESPN, and The Athletic cut their broadcasts and played the audio recording back to back. Audio analysis experts confirmed that the voice was 99% accurate and belonged to Robert Eastman. The companies mentioned in the documents published by Butler matched the payment and referral references in the recording. Curry's team broke their silence and issued a written statement. Stephen Curry is a symbolic figure based solely on his representation as an athlete in the All-Star selection process. He has never been involved in any way, official or unofficial. For some reason, this statement did not reassure the public, because everyone could now see how influential Curry was within this system, which operated through his advisors. And Adam Silver, he was still not speaking. Meanwhile, the NBA Players Association made a new call. They asked the league management to review the All-Star selection and suspend the organization until the investigation was complete. Some team owners also expressed their support to the public. The owner of the Phoenix Suns said, "This league is not ours. This league belongs to the public." The general manager of the Miami Heat openly supported Jimmy Butler, stating, "We really need players who stand up for justice." These statements showed only one thing. Jimmy Butler was definitely not alone anymore. That evening, new information was released. The whistleblower who provided the audio recording sent an email to Lena Torres. The following sentence in the email stood out. "As long as Silver remains silent, this recording is just the beginning. There is more, and it's all verifiable." It was not so much a threat as a promise, a warning from within the system, a small sign that the documents that remained in the dark would eventually come to light. Jimmy Butler made another public statement following these developments. He spoke briefly but firmly. "Basketball gives us a sense of belonging, but that sense of belonging cannot be surrendered to a script written by someone sitting at a desk. If this league is ours, then we have to protect it." The recording was not just proof of corruption. It was an echo that revealed how power was distributed in the NBA, what was being said in which rooms, and who was keeping quiet. The next morning, the NBA management called an extraordinary meeting. The content of this meeting, which was not open to the public, was unknown. But one thing was clear behind the scenes. Adam Silver had to defend himself this time, because the documents, statements, and audio recordings that had come to light now implicated not only Curry, but him as well. Jimmy Butler's team submitted a new petition. They demanded that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver officially testify before the Ethics Committee. And this time, the request was signed by the managers of 7 different clubs. On the same day, Silver's office requested a closed-door meeting with the press, but the answer was clear and unequivocal. Nothing would be closed anymore. There was someone else who would speak before Adam Silver at the hearing scheduled for the following day. Another witness. This figure was a former executive who worked with Curry's advisors. But the final shocking development that night completely changed the balance. With the announcement by the Independent Ethics Committee, another document was added to the public record. The transcript of Robert Eastman's speech, the full transcript of the audio recording, and there, in black and white, was the sentence that sent a chill down everyone's spine. The green light came from above. This sentence was no longer just a sound. It was the coded confession of a system. The silent mechanism that had been operating behind the scenes at the NBA for years had never been so visible. The contacts made under the table by powerful figures, the invisible connections and hidden decisions, were now being played out before everyone's eyes. And at the center of this chaos, Jimmy Butler was still standing tall. The Ethics Committee announced that its meeting would be broadcast live. The person summoned, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. The press room was packed. Spectators, social media users, fans, and retired players. Everyone was waiting for this moment. The silence was no longer a defense, but a confession. When Adam Silver entered the room, all eyes were on him. He had his usual calm expression on his face, but his eyes were tired. He took the podium. He was speaking in public for the first time, and for the first time, he had to respond directly to the accusations. He began his speech with a simple sentence: "I am here because I do not want the value of this league to be questioned." He then continued, "The All-Star process is always a little complicated. The schedule, sponsorship, and city preparations. However, I am prepared to thoroughly investigate any allegations that this process was manipulated." But these words did not satisfy anyone. Jimmy Butler's lawyer took the floor. "We have documents showing the financial transactions of companies linked to your advisors. One of these companies was founded by someone who works in your office. What is your explanation for this?" Adam Silver paused for a few seconds. "I have no direct connection to these companies. If there is one, it was developed without my knowledge." This defense caused an uneasy murmur in the room. At that moment, Jimmy Butler stood up. Unfortunately, he was not given the floor, but the room was still silent. All eyes turned to him. He spoke slowly. "Mr. Chairman, your job is not just to manage organizations. It is also to protect the trust in this game. If no one sitting at this table takes responsibility for the words spoken in the audio recordings, then someone must be held accountable. Because if such a grand plan was put in place to take away a tournament, it is never a matter for just a few people." Silver did not respond, but he did not look away either. The chairman of the Ethics Committee made an official statement. "The evaluation process will begin with the post-session documents, audio recordings, and witness statements. If deemed necessary, internal NBA disciplinary proceedings and independent criminal investigations will be initiated." On the same day, Butler's office released a 14-page report to the public. This file, containing all documents, payment schedules, and transcripts of audio recordings, is now part of the NBA archives. This was not only a turning point in sports history, but also in the system itself. The events that followed unfolded rapidly. Silver announced his temporary resignation. Curry's advisory team stepped down. The All-Star event in Charlotte was also suspended. But what was really shocking was not so much the public reaction as the surprising support that came from within the NBA. Many players and coaches openly supported Jimmy Butler. Some players shared only this sentence on their social media accounts: "Jimmy was absolutely right." One former star said on a television program, "This league exists because of the players, and for a player to have the courage to stop the wheels of the system is an example for all young generations." Butler, however, remained silent. He made no victory statements and did not go on any press tours. He spoke only once, at a meeting of the NBA Players Association. "Actually, I wasn't trying to overthrow anyone. I just believed in the heart of the game of basketball. And if there is no justice in that heart, then no trophies or awards mean anything." His speech was very short, but he was the only one in the room who received a standing ovation. Days later, the NBA Board of Governors issued a new decree. It was a reform package that required all organizational bidding processes to be independently audited, sponsorship agreements to be made without consulting the players, and financial transactions to be disclosed to the public. Jimmy Butler's name was not mentioned in the document, but everyone knew that if the system had changed, it was thanks to his quiet determination. And now, At every All-Star game, behind the background music played in the stands before the ceremony, another voice echoed. That voice was the phrase that really changed everything. If this league is ours, we will protect it. Do you think Jimmy Butler did the right thing? Is basketball just a game, or is it a stance? Share your thoughts in the comments and join the discussion.